November 5, 2024. An unidentified object fell directly from space into the country's capital R. A huge shockwave instantly destroyed the island nation. The five major powers of the Blue Star closed this place off from other humans overnight. And to get to the bottom of what happened, they sent their best scientists to this island. A new era is dawning for mankind. 1 year later, China, Haicheng, showing a photo of a girl in a bikini. The guy asks Lin Lo to take a closer look at this picture. The 20-year-old girl from our country is looking for someone to adopt her. He immediately asks his friend if he would like to take such a babe to his place to pass on his patriotic spirit and make her proud of her country. But Lin Luo didn't hear his friend. While his colleague waved his hand in front of his face, asking his comrade why he was crying, Lin just stood still and tried to figure out what was going on. This is the same company. After realizing where he was now, Lin wondered, am I not in the epicenter of chaos right now? I remember it's been almost a year since the unidentified object hit the Earth. And it was as if our world had turned into a violent game location. Some of us have awakened new powers and skills, and some of us have changed jobs and gained extraordinary abilities. With secret underground realms appearing in the other world and beasts awakening to fight humans, mortals had no choice but to pool their resources and fight for survival. The laws of order collapsed in an instant. Only one law of the jungle remained. Where there are the weak and the strong, to improve my skills, I only fight ferocious tiger-level beasts. However, our enemies attracted a ferocious high-level beast with powerful strength. My brother died tragically trying to protect me. My brother sacrificed his life to lead me out of the secret world. But we were attacked by ambush monsters. And it's all because of the Ascension Crystal. We couldn't just give it away. In this age of chaos, weakness is the original sin. Remembering all of this, Lin Luo looked at his colleague and asked what date today is. The friend told him that today is the 12th of November of the 2025th year. After that, he asked the guy if he is a fool or if he just drank too much last night. Young people should know their limits. Lin paid no attention to his words and realized something. November 12th of the year 2025. So the guy was reborn and returned to the day of his awakening 3 years ago. It should be morning outside now, and there are still a few hours before the ability awakens. Lin Luo, your actions are against our company's values. You're fired. Go down to the accounting department and get a settlement. Don't show up at the company again. Wang Zhichao, the general manager, suddenly shouted, approaching the boy from the back. Looking around, the guy immediately remembered this man. It's the manager Wang Zhichao. He had been trying to fire Lin for a long time, and it was on this day that he finally managed to find the right reason to kick the annoying employee out of the company, right after he moved out. In his past life, Wang Zhichao transformed into a demon after awakening. He harvested the organs, limbs and lives of ordinary people in exchange for resources to increase his power. He forced innocent people into prostitution and evil deeds to please himself. Lin never imagined that they would meet again after all that this man had done. A bastard raised by scum. Does he deserve to be appreciated by Wenyu? The boss doesn't even want to think about people like him, the manager remarked, looking at the boy haughtily. The subordinates standing behind agreed with the boss, adding that by going against his manager, this kid had clearly overestimated his capabilities. While they were talking about it, Lin Luo simply turned around and left without answering anything. In his past life, the young man had beaten Wang Zhichao almost to death after this conversation. The guy was even taken away by law enforcement. As a result, the National Awakening began that day. He missed the National Awakening period because he was in the detention center for 10 days. And when he got out, almost all the people had reached level 10 and above. Lin Luo and his brother were both orphaned at an early age and ended up in an orphanage. Because of the terrible living conditions, they had no choice but to survive by stealing. Soon after the National Awakening, Shen Ju's brother, who had been sentenced to 15 years for grand theft, got out of prison. And then Lin's life became much more beautiful. Lin's brother was released early because the top-level powers awakened in him, and he was able to make a great contribution to the fight against monsters. After that, Ju took the guy to his place, and they went through difficult missions together. After a while, a terrible incident occurred. Lin Luo accidentally killed an ordinary man. That's when he realized that his powers had awakened. Now, when killing a person or any other creature, the guy absorbed the power of the enemy's soul, causing his talent level to increase. Unfortunately, Lin's brother didn't allow the boy to just kill. Even bad people he asked him not to touch. As a result, because of Zhu's soft character, they both died soon after. In his new life, Lin Luo will no longer feel the helplessness and hatred he felt in the past. If kindness is not encouraged in any way, he will turn to justice through the heavens. The guy will be more ruthless than the most ruthless people. He will control his own destiny. His enemies will be his incentive, and only this guy will take the winner's throne. After a while, Lin headed to one of the restrooms in the company building and sat down in a stall. At the same moment, the national awakening began and the system appeared, which immediately welcomed the guy, congratulating him on entering a new era. From then on, the blue star would unlock different levels of secret worlds anywhere in the world. After the guy's abilities are awakened, he will find himself in a dungeon, and the secret realm will awaken his own fighting profession. In the end, just like in his previous life, Lin Luo ended up with a level F power, with which, when taking someone's life, he steals 1% of the victim's inventory value, or 1% of their ability score. Of course, the rank of this skill could grow as well as its characteristics. As a reborn human, the guy knows the secrets of all the known dungeons near Hangzhou. After the beginning of the era, universal movement, as well as the locations of secret passages. More importantly, he can upgrade his talent to SSS level in a short period of time. Haha, you're cute. Suddenly heard a familiar voice in the hallway as the boy sat in the toilet stall. This was the person Lin had been waiting for all this time. Wang Zhichao, while talking on the phone, told some girl that he had awakened an S-level talent called Healing Grasp. The man immediately promised that if she followed him, he would lead her to a bright future. Of course, his true desire was not to get a beautiful woman as his subordinate, so that he could give her a decent life. In the future, Zhichao would just use her as a toy, but his plans were not destined to come true. Warden Wang, it's good to see you again. You will be the perfect sacrifice for my rebirth, Lin Luo said coldly as he placed a lash around the man's neck. Now is the best time to raise your skill rank as quickly as possible. Most people are in a state of confusion, and no one has really figured out their true strength yet. Wang Zhichao possesses a special incarnation that is only inherent to S-level abilities. Thanks to this, the man can summon his doppelganger. A doppelganger immediately materialized behind them and began trying to heal his master. But since Zhichao didn't know how to use this power to its full potential, his attempts were futile. Lin Luo snapped the man's neck in the blink of an eye, absorbing his strength, and immediately raising his ability level from level F to E. Moreover, there was no way to stop the rank progression. First, the system notified me that the strength of rank E had turned into the strength of rank D. Then it immediately jumped from rank D to rank C. In the end, the skill was pumped up to rank S in a couple of seconds. Now the inventory looting, when the owner took an opponent's life, allows you to take the victim's entire inventory, strength, skill, and one of the 4 types of soul power. In his previous life, Lin Luo and his brother had spent 3 years to raise their abilities to A level. Now, just a few hours after being reborn, the guy has surpassed himself in his previous life and has obtained an S level of strength. This is just unbelievable. Extending his hand forward, the young man cried out loudly, summoning his doppelganger. Dark matter began to gather in space, which represented the entire essence of Lin's doppelganger. In the same second, a creature born from the energy of the blue star appeared before the boy at full height. This is an S-rank Dark Emperor. His strength exceeds human strength by 20 times and is 200 units. All the other characteristics are also at an incredible level. This inventory is extremely strong. Even in the Chaos era, Lin's doppelganger will be better than any human. A doppelganger created by an S-level power has a maximum inventory value of 200 points. Except for health, a SS-level doppelganger has a maximum inventory value of 400 points, and if it reaches as high as SSS, the characteristics go up to 600 units. Dark Emperor has 3 values that have reached the upper limit. The Dark Emperor's disadvantages are his intelligence, defense, and range. His intelligence is so low that he can only control the battle with his thoughts. Even so, the Dark Emperor is the strongest rank S melee doppelganger. The Black Emperor's ability to take by force doesn't work on the other doppelgangers, but Ling Luo's abilities make up for it. In addition, the henchman's height is 200 centimeters. This is something that many SSS-level doppelgangers don't have. And the first instruction Lin gave to the Dark Emperor was to get rid of the manager's body. This Wang Zhichao has turned into a devil after the Chaos era. For him, dying in the toilet is a dignified death. It would most likely be many months before his corpse was found here. Right now, Lin Luo feels invincible. Today, everyone's abilities have been awakened, and even the once empty offices are bustling with life. In the third-year group of the Faculty of Finance, a lot of people were already texting each other, discussing their new abilities. Someone was saying that they had awakened a C-rank power. Some had managed to awaken A-rank strength. But the one who stood out the most was Lu Ming. This guy had obtained a skill called Wishbook, which was of rank S. Lin Luo remembers how that jerk Lu Ming got together with Fang Men, the top beauty of the class, right after waking up in his last life. After that, he killed many innocent people and inspectors in various ways and joined the same group. So, this time, Lin would deprive him of his power for the good of all of Hangzhou. Meanwhile, in a hotel somewhere in Hangzhou, with his incredible strength, Lu Ming had already terrorized the entire class and the university in general. He even made his worst enemy call himself daddy. This guy is very lucky that this doppelganger actually fulfills his master's wishes. Lord of Prayers, I want to fully obtain Fang Meng's body and mind, the boy uttered, pointing his finger at his henchman. The doppelganger immediately informed his master that his wish had been granted. After that, the Lord of Prayers disappeared for a while. Anyway, he would soon reappear. But now the top beauty of the class, Fang Meng, wouldn't be able to miss this show. It could be said that she now completely belongs to Lu Ming. The guy immediately wrote to the girl and called her to his room 414 in the Pinzeng Hotel. Before ending the correspondence, he reminded his lover to come in black stockings. Fang Meng did not refuse, and even on the contrary, she willingly agreed after learning that a classmate had awakened an S-rank ability. Of course, under normal circumstances, she would not have done so. Laughing evilly, Lu Ming realized just how incredible his doppelganger was, just how much power he has in him. As long as the Lord of Prayers is with him, the guy can rule the entire world. At this moment, Lin called the boy and said that he had found the main advantage of an S-class doppelganger, then offered to meet him. Lu Ming immediately wondered if his classmate had also awakened an S-level talent. The fatty immediately gave him his address and hotel room and asked him to come over soon. That's when Ming realized this was the best day of his life. Not only would he get Lin Luo's secret, but also the goddess of his dreams. 5 minutes later, the classmate had already entered the 414 room of the Pincheng Hotel. The guy immediately asked Lin from the doorstep what level S ability he had. He asked him to tell him quickly, explaining that he still had an appointment here. The guest didn't object and promised to tell him everything. The secret of my S-level ability lies in. Lin Luo spoke out, walking up to the boy closely. In the same second, a Dark Emperor appeared behind Lu Ming. Feeling a terrifying aura behind him, the terrified lad turned around to see what kind of creature was standing behind him. But before he realized what was happening, a powerful blow from the metal fist of Lin's doppelganger suddenly flew into his face. From the incredible force of this blow, Lu Ming flew several meters away, stamping into the opposite wall. The guy died on the spot, and Lin Luo, thanks to the looting ability that was triggered, was able to choose one of the 4 values of the victim. He could obtain the opponent's inventory, ability, skill, or soul power. Lu Ming himself is an ordinary person with a small amount of inventory. He didn't have any special skills until the ability awakened in him. Soul power can increase the level of an ability, but Lin's S-rank soul power isn't enough to improve. Therefore, it's more useful for the guy to use the victim's abilities. I'll take the ability, the young man said, smiling contentedly. In the end, the enemy was successfully looted. The boy received an S-level ability called Wishbook. This skill can activate 3 forms of desire. The first form is called Battle Wish, which increases the number of hits by 30%, multiplies experience, and gives other useful skills in battle. Next comes the Defense Wish, which helps you dodge attacks. Rounding out the list is the Luck Wish, which increases your luck tenfold. All of this lasts for 5 minutes after each transformation. Wishbook is a really good ability. It is good for both offensive and defensive attacks from opponents. It also brings good luck. Lin Luo immediately summoned a doppelganger. This minion is called the S-rank Lord of Prayer. He can grant 1 wish of his master. The time to recharge is determined by the difficulty of the wish. Furthermore, this doppelganger has excellent intelligence and is therefore able to speak in human language. As soon as the prayer lord appeared in front of him, Lin asked in surprise, wondering if they could talk to each other. "Yes sir, I am a special doppelganger who can do more than any other. If the wish book is in your hands, I can grant any wish you wish," explained the Lord of Prayer, looking at his master. Of course, simple wishes consumed little energy, while complex wishes consumed a lot. If Lin wished too much, the minion might die. After telling this, the prayer lord reminded that he had developed intelligence more than the other doppelgangers, so he could always help advise his master. In that case, Lin Luo immediately asked to tell him how he could most properly utilize his doppelganger's abilities. The henchman replied that wishes meant a lot to people, but each wish had its own laboriousness. The best option would be to make wishes that wouldn't expend much of the doppelganger's power. After listening to him, Lin guessed how this could be utilized. Thinking of it this way, instead of asking for the treasure to be given, it would be better to ask where it is. The Lord of Prayer observed that the gentleman was quite intelligent. Wishes that can be easily realized require a small amount of energy. Creating something out of nothing, on the other hand, would require a lot of energy. For example, winning the lottery is much less labor-intensive than creating a bottle of water from nothing. If you use a wish book on another person, the energy expenditure depends on the willpower of the target. Lin Luo then asked the Lord what the cost would be to free his brother from police surveillance. Looking into the wish book, the doppelganger explained to the Lord that this wish would take all of his energy and plunge the minion into silence for some time. In addition, due to the difficulty in granting the wish, the process might be delayed and Lin's brother wouldn't be able to free himself quickly. After listening to him, the guy understood the whole point of this system. A wish had to be logical. It would be strange if someone's crazy whim actually came true. It seemed like the most correct solution was to request information about other S-class capabilities. Right now, the boy was interested in one question. How did the Dark Emperor manage to get rid of manager Wang Zhichao's body so quickly? Also, there is some kind of watch on the henchman's chest. For some reason, Lin noticed it only now. Moreover, the hands of this watch are always in the same position. Looking at the Lord of Prayer, the boy wondered if he knew much about doppelgangers. Is the image of a doppelganger related to the owner's own abilities? The minion replied that the Lord was right, and the image of the doppelganger was indeed similar to the abilities and soul power of the owner. After listening to him, Lin Luo pondered for a moment. The Dark Emperor didn't have any time-related abilities. Did it really appear because of the guy's rebirth? The young man immediately realized that he couldn't figure it out right now, so he decided to leave it for later. If Lin now finds the answers to all his questions, there will be no unsolvable mysteries left in this world. In that case, the guy decided to start by exploring all the dungeons and secret areas, using the power he had received. Walking towards the exit of the hotel, the young man noticed the first beauty of the class. Dumbfoundedly looking at her phone, Fang Meng can't believe that she sent so many disgusting messages to that bastard Lu Ming. Moreover, she doesn't even know why she came to this place. Without paying much attention to her, Lin Luo went to the front desk and asked to extend room 414 for another 7 days. He explained that his friend didn't like to be disturbed, therefore, the room didn't need to be cleaned. The next morning came. This person's name is Yun Taiji. Looking at the Time Lord, the man asked where her white watch was. Furthermore, why was his time travel rescheduled? The doppelganger immediately explained that when she was returning to her master, the unknown being had taken some of her power. This caused a distortion in time-space. Hearing this, the annoyed Taiji slammed his fist on the table. The man didn't expect that after spending so much money, he would still get into trouble. He, Taiji, had awakened an extremely rare SSS level time travel ability during the Universal Awakening era. Thanks to his ability, this man had killed one of the gods to break through to another dimension, but unfortunately, a single person from the illogical clan met in his path. The mute opponent was able to easily defeat Taiji. Therefore, the man had to activate the time travel inventory. He even used up the Time Lord's entire energy limit from 4,000 to 40, causing the Time Lord to fall into a time loop. Taiji couldn't even imagine that this would happen. He wanted to return a week before the General Awakening and ended up returning just hours after. The Time Lord had lost the power of the Time King, so there were only many obstacles ahead for these two. Closing her eyes, the doppelganger turned to the master and told him that she seemed to have sensed the power of a Time King. It seems to be in the possession of someone from Hangzhou City. Looking at her, Taiji asked if she was sure about it. Why did the power go to another person? The Time Lord explained that she thought it was the person the master had met while traveling. But does the master really want to find him? The doppelganger also added that since this stranger was able to take away the abilities of a Time Lord, it means that he has a special power flowing within him. In addition, Taiji is not good at close combat, and his abilities are at 0 right now. Therefore, it was best for the man not to seek him out. Without taking her eyes off her doppelganger, Taiji clarified if she was sure that this dude was from the illogical clan. At this, the Time Lord asked the Lord to believe her. She feels that her powers are in some person right now. In that case, Taiji suggested that he should first go to the dungeon and look for his former teammates. No matter what, the man needed to gather his strength first. He would always have time to settle scores with his enemy. Meanwhile, a dungeon portal has opened somewhere in the city. A policeman blocking the path of a group of people asks them to pass through the dungeon with extra caution. He also advises them to split into squads of 5. Gazing admiringly at this huge portal, the group of Awakened cannot believe that something like this even exists. Indeed, a new era has arrived. However, despite all the opportunities that this dungeon can provide, no one can decide to go first. The best option would be to first think about the strategy and then already run into the dungeon. This will take a lot of time. But at that moment, while everyone was hesitating, some guy came out of the crowd and said he would go first. Looking after him, the rest of the Awakened cannot believe that such a young boy was so brave. And by the way, aren't they allowed in on teams? Why did he go alone? In his past life, Lin Luo was afraid to go there alone. But in this life, he's gonna tear everybody up. As soon as the guy entered the dungeon, the copying process started in his body. The system immediately gave advice. All the damage that the player receives dungeon will be completely eliminated after leaving the dungeon. His health would be completely restored. Those who die the dungeon will be resurrected and sent to the mission again. After 3 deaths, rebirth will become impossible. The system then asked the player to choose one of the following 6 main specialties: mage, archer, warrior, guardian, assassin, priest. In his past life, Lin became a warrior. This profession is relatively average in strength up to level 20. Right now, the guy has 2S level abilities, so he needs to find a specialty that suits his strength. Calling the Lord of Prayer, the young man asked for advice. What specialty should he choose? The doppelganger immediately advised the master to choose a mage. Thanks to his S-rank abilities, after level 20, Lin would be able to move up to a higher rank seer mage. In addition, using the power of a Dark Emperor, he could easily deal with a mage's main weakness, melee combat. After listening to his advice, the guy hesitated. It turns out that S-level powers could increase the rank of an ability. This meant that the Dark Emperor had his own selfish goals. With a glance at the Overlord, Lin asked what profession he would switch to after the rest of the dungeon activities if he chose mage and loot inventory. The doppelganger didn't bother to recommend choosing loot, as it simplified the mage's abilities. Although the Overlord gave good advice, Lin's innate ability is looting, and the entire combat component is still based on the Dark Emperor. The strength and agility levels of the Dark Emperor are at their limit, so choosing an assassin class that has agility as its main quality would be the right decision. Glancing coldly at his doppelganger, the young man asked what profession he would move into after level 2 if he chose assassin. After a bit of thought, the Lord of Prayer suggested that outlaw assassin would go well with the power of looting. Even so, the minion again advised the Lord to take up the profession of a mage, as it was easier. "I choose the assassin," Lin Luo uttered, not listening to his doppelganger. Mentally apologizing to the Lord, the young man pressed the button. At the same moment, a message from the system popped up. The player successfully changed his specialty to assassin, and his characteristic panel began to be created. The guy felt it too. The characteristics of his body really started to change. Meanwhile, he began to gain various skills inherent to the assassin. Level 1 Shadow Hunt, allowing him to quickly run behind an enemy to deliver a deadly attack. Ghost Strike, which gathers power from his entire body into a single attack. In addition, there are 2 more skills that increase dexterity and reaction. Along with all of this, Lin was given a small beginner's blade with an attack power equal to 6 units. Everything happened just as the boy thought it would. The assassin and the Dark Emperor are the best couple. When the system asked the player to choose the number of people to complete the dungeon mission, Lin replied that he would go alone. The Dark Emperor's combat strength was now equal to that of a level 20 or 30 player, therefore, he didn't need a team for this mission. Besides, if you go through the dungeon alone, you can get a high score and better rewards. At the same second, a new window popped up in front of the boy's face. The system asked him to choose the difficulty level of the Goblin dungeon from the 4 possible levels: easy, normal, difficult, and hell. Lin Luo didn't hesitate and immediately chose the hardest level. The system alerted that the recommended player level was at least 5th. It then clarified whether the guy definitely wanted to select the hellish difficulty level and enter the dungeon. The young man immediately confirmed it. At the same moment, the entrance to the dungeon began. Soon, Lin Luo found himself facing a huge horde of armed ferocious goblins. It's a level 5 red-eyed goblin. Even for its level, its stats are quite high. To give you an example, his health level is 300 points. Looking at this horde, Lin Luo immediately extended his hand in front of him, calling, "Hundreds of battles, come out, Dark Emperor." The guy shrieked, whereupon his doppelganger materialized beside him. Pointing to the horde of enemies, the young man ordered a minion to destroy them. In the next instant, the Dark Emperor struck the red-eyed goblin in the face with a powerful fist. The attack drained the enemy of 770 health. The red-eyed goblin was literally pulverized. Lin Luo received 150 experience points for killing it. The Dark Emperor, in turn, did not stop there and continued to strike blow after blow at each of his opponents. In a matter of seconds, the doppelganger exterminated the entire horde of goblins, destroying each one in a single blow. In the end, 15 red-eyed goblins were killed. In total, Lin gained 2,250 experience points. Just by entering this dungeon, the guy had reached the 6th level. Unfortunately, the Dark Emperor's grabridge ability could only be used 7 times, and these monsters were just trash. Therefore, the young man needed to save his strength now. After the battle was over, he asked the system to show him his inventory and ability points. After seeing his score, Lin realized that the best way was to add poison to the assassin's weapon. In addition, he needed agility now, because after the second turn, it could be converted into attack power. As for the abilities, they should all focus on speed, which was directly related to agility. The guy immediately asked the system to increase agility by 16 points, strength by 4 points, and dexterity by 10 points. The young man's agility had now reached the 11th level. Compared to Shadow Hunt and Ghost Strike, dexterity reduces stamina consumption by 40%. If you don't want to spend points on stamina, but want to save time, it's better to add agility. Undoubtedly, this is the most economical option. In Lin's past life, people entered the dungeon and realized that the true entrance to the dungeon could be thousands of meters away. They had to fight even before the mission began, and after a while, their stamina would run out. As a result, many of the players became a burden to their teams at the beginning of the game. By the way, as you could notice, gold coins fall out of the killed monsters and then disappear. This money will go straight to the treasure chest after the boss dies. With each passing minute, Lin Luo and his henchmen walked farther and farther away. meeting little to no resistance. A 6th level wolfskin goblin, 7th level stone throwing goblins, level 8 stone throwing goblins. All of these monsters were getting stronger, but they still couldn't give a decent fight to the Dark Emperor. In addition, Lin himself had reached the 7th level. Nothing can stop him now. The guy can handle this dungeon. After a while, the young man stopped in place and smiled grimly. Now it's the boss room's turn. Not far from the throne where the Goblin Lord was seated, several monsters had captured 2 girls and had already started undressing them. The big goblin, the goblin shaman, the fire goblin. There are so many of them. It's a pity that the abilities of these monsters are very different from the Dark Emperor. While Lin Luo was reasoning about it, a huge goblin with a club had already pounced at him with shouts. Although these monsters are ordinary NPCs, but no matter how many times Lin looked at them, they still continued to annoy him unbearably. "Destroy them, Dark Emperor," ordered the guy, pointing his finger at the enemies. At the same second, the doppelganger pounced on his opponent and slammed his metal fist into his stomach with tremendous force. The monster died before it could do anything, and its allies immediately began casting a powerful spiritual spell. The unknown matter immediately began to envelop the Dark Emperor, protecting the Lord with his body. At the same moment, a devastating explosion rang out, raising a huge cloud of dust and dirt into the air. As the goblin stared there, trying to figure out if the enemy was dead, the fist of the Dark Emperor suddenly appeared out of the mist. The doppelganger scattered all the monsters with a few blows. "You're the only one left, run," Lin Luo arrogantly said, pointing his finger at the Goblin Lord. But as expected, the monster was not going to give up. It immediately jumped up and attacked the Dark Emperor with a deafening howl. However, this fight also ended with only one blow. With a lightning-fast lunge, Lin's doppelganger punched the Goblin Lord in the face with all his might. The huge carcass of the enemy fell to the ground with a rumble. After such a powerful attack, the monster never woke up again. As he approached the monster's body, Lin noticed that the enemy was incredibly weak. However, only a dead goblin was a good goblin. For killing all the monsters in the boss room, the guy received a total of 9,700 experience points. The player's level was raised to 9th. After scoring, the system immediately congratulated the player on passing the dungeon. At the same moment, the creation of the treasure chest began. "Well, wish me luck," Lin Luo spoke out, causing his luck to increase tenfold. The goblin lair has been successfully cleared. The player did not receive a single unit of damage during the passage. The time taken to complete the level was only 5 minutes. Number of squad members: 1. Due to this, the only member of the group will receive a triple rating bonus. Added to this is a 5-fold bonus for the minimum player level at entry. Assessment for completing the mission: 1,500 points, which is equal to the SSS rank. As a reward, Lin Luo will receive a treasure chest of gold level treasure, which is the highest rank. Of course, the guy got exactly what he hoped for. The damage you take and the time you take determines your base points, while the number of people in your squad and the level you enter the dungeon with determines your point increases and decreases. The grading scale depends on the score, and the SSS level is reached with only 500 points. Initially a low-level mission, even on hell difficulty. This mission allows you to get a high-level black iron chest. Chests are divided into different types: bronze, black iron, silver, gold, dark gold, diamond, holy, earth, heaven, and immortal. Each species is subdivided into 3 minor species: common, rare, and extreme. Thanks to Lord of Prayers, you can easily get a gold chest even from such an easy dungeon. It's simply marvelous. "Open," Lin Luo said, and then the lid of the chest opened. The guy was given a lot of advanced health, energy, and physical strength recovery potions. These are pretty useful things. He also received several pieces of armor and weapons of black iron and silver level. Of course, all of this was useless trash that he would not need in the future. He also now has a top-level spell. Unfortunately, it too has no value as its score is very low. Money, of course, was not lacking for Lin. However, not everything in the chest was useless. He was lucky enough to get 2 pieces of gold and higher-level equipment that he could use. Lin Luo immediately decided to look at the characteristics of the Guardian Blade given to him. A gold-level guardian's short blade of the highest quality, only used by the assassin class. It has an attack power of 60. Among other buffs, this blade casts a bleed on the enemy after it penetrates their defenses. This item is quite valuable. It has 40 more attack than a 10th level bronze blade. It also has 3 additional stats and a bleeding effect. The guy then looked at the characteristics of the Guardian's armor that had also fallen to him from the chest. Guardian armor of gold level of the highest quality, suitable for all professions. It's a light armor that preserves health and reduces damage. Really good stuff. The system soon announced that the game data had been successfully saved. It then asked the player to enter the name of the game character, Dark Emperor. Lin Luo immediately cried out without hesitation. Afterwards, the system congratulated the Dark Emperor player for becoming the first person in the world to solo the Hell level dungeon. The reward is a lucky ticket for 10 rounds of the Wheel of Fate. The rest of the people have already received the news that a certain Dark Emperor was able to pass such a difficult dungeon alone. The Wheel of Fortune lottery is really cool. Some girl even already wanted to have a baby with this mysterious man. Upon hearing this news, Yun Taiji immediately realized that there was something wrong here. He remembered that the previous time the announcement came late at night. The player who received this achievement is a true wolf. The man looked at the Time Lord and asked if she was sure that time travel did not change the course of events. The doppelganger explained to the Lord that time travel allows the soul to return to its previous body, nothing more. It should not affect the thoughts of other people in any way. Based on this, Taiji only had 2 assumptions. 1. The Dark Emperor in this world took the power of the Time Lord to pass the dungeon and become stronger. Or 2. The Dark Emperor from the future had taken this power to move to the present and pass the mission. However, the doppelganger noticed that her power couldn't improve someone else's abilities. How could he go through the dungeon alone? The man agreed after a moment's thought, saying that he couldn't understand it either. But no matter what, they absolutely must find this person. If he progressed in the dungeon faster than Taiji and his henchmen, they would be in trouble. 10 rounds in the lottery. In his previous life, Lin Luo had labored for 3 years, but the Wheel of Fortune had only fallen out 5 times. Come out, Lord of Prayers. It's your turn to make history, muttered the boy, closing his eyes. Showing himself before the young man, the doppelganger said it was his pleasure to serve his lord. Upon seeing him, Lin asked for help in finding out what he needed to do to maximize his benefits. The Lord of Prayers immediately congratulated the Lord on winning tickets in the Wheel of Fortune lottery. This is a very valuable reward that can only be obtained after completing the Heller Tower of Babel level dungeons. As far as the doppelganger knows, it is possible to win inventory items from SSS to F levels in Wheel of Fortune, but many items are almost impossible to find even in dungeons. A potion of longevity that increases life expectancy. A real crystal that allows you to get back your spent powers and inventory. Other interesting items that increase the level of abilities, health and so on. In addition, the probability of getting an inventory of a particular level can vary significantly. For example, the chance of getting an SSS level item is only 1/100%. So it doesn't matter how many tickets a player has. It's purely down to luck. The Overlord asked the gentleman to understand that he may not be able to get props of level S or higher. Then, pointing his finger at his doppelganger, Lin asked why he shouldn't use the power of the Lord of Prayers. The minion explained that if the Lord wanted to obtain a specific SSS level item, the Lord would sleep for 6 months. If it was a random one, then it would only take 6 days. The second option would use 220 units of energy. The dream of the doppelganger will greatly affect Lin and take away his strength. He will immediately lose his advantage over other people, and that's a shame. It seems like the S-level inventory would be more reliable. The guy then asked his minion what would happen if he conjured 2 items of rank S or higher. The Lord replied that it would take 110 units of energy. The young man, in turn, said that it was too much, so he decided to make do with just 1 such item. "Sir, your wish will come true," said the Lord of Prayers, opening the Book of Wishes. Lin Luo activated the lottery at the same second. The ticket disappeared from his hand, shattering into tiny particles. At the same moment, A grand wheel of fortune appeared in space. The lottery arrow scrolled exactly 10 times. The guy ended up with 10 prizes. 3 of them were level F, another 3 were level D, 1 each of levels C, B, and A. There was also an extreme crystal of level SS. Communication crystal increases the doppelganger's movement range. True crystal increases the doppelganger's energy limit. An extreme crystal gives the doppelganger a short-term acceleration. Lin Luo had gotten everything he wanted. It's a shame that only the extreme crystal is SS level. Other items are significantly inferior to it in power. Lin had 2 C and F rank communication crystals, and so he made the decision to rightfully give them to the Dark Emperor. The doppelganger immediately absorbed it, increasing its range to 6 meters. The spirit enhancement crystal can be used directly, but the extreme crystal potion to spend life has to be chosen manually. Moreover, the guy now has a heart of energy and a cruelty crystal. Taking the 2 items, the young man turned to the Lord of Prayers and asked if he knew for whom the 2 crystals were intended. Seeing these items in the Lord's hands, the doppelganger advised him to give it to him first. If the guy did so, he wouldn't have to worry about the Lord's energy problems anymore. The young man did not object, and, throwing these crystals to his minion, asked him to take this. The Lord of Prayers immediately noticed that the master had made a wise decision. As soon as the doppelganger used these 2 items, his energy increased by 100 points, and now its limit had risen to 300 units. The energy recovery speed also increased. As Lin Luo continued to look at the rewards, he noticed that it was a pity that the real crystal wasn't enough to increase the value of the inventory. It had only increased by 4%. Furthermore, since the guy didn't have a space crystal, he wouldn't be able to afford to leave the dungeon in an emergency. To find that, you only have to go forward. After a while, Lin walked out of the dungeon. The people he met on the way out complained that this dungeon was incredibly difficult. That's right, Lin Luo had now surpassed many people in terms of strength and ability. There was a great opportunity to develop quickly and leave others behind. Now it's time to head to the Tower of Babel to get your first real achievement. The number of levels there is endless. Soon Lin came to the Tower of Babel. There were already quite a few people gathered here. Someone was bragging that he was already at the 3rd level. Some men were looking for girls to team up with and go together. Others were looking for a level 4 archer. For every 10 floors of the Tower of Babel that the player can pass, you can get a Wheel of Fortune lottery ticket. According to this guy, we'll have to try very hard this time. Hey, handsome, why don't we team up? Said a girl who suddenly approached the young man, holding out her hand to him. Keeping his hands in his pockets, Lin Luo ignored her suggestions and simply walked past. He wasn't interested in the team. This kind of nonsense was bad for the speed of the level. A minute later, the guy was already in the Tower of Babel. This place treats newcomers very well. Here it even let in various level 4 dogs. Seeing the opponents, the young man immediately summoned the Dark Emperor. The doppelganger immediately pounced on the monsters, clearing the first floor of the Tower of Babel with a few blows. The time to pass the checkpoint was only 20 seconds. While Lin Luo was climbing up to the 2nd floor of the Tower of Babel, after being rewarded with 5 fragments of fate, the system congratulated the guy for passing the 1st floor in the shortest amount of time. His game, named Dark Emperor, would be popular among players around the world. On the 2nd floor, the monsters were waiting for the young man again. Hey animals, let's hurry up. I'm in a big hurry, Lin said, nonchalantly walking towards them. After a while, other people started receiving notifications that it only took the Dark Emperor player 30 seconds to clear the 2nd floor of the Tower of Babel, then 40 seconds to clear the 3rd floor, 52 for the 4th. This Dark Emperor is so fast. He's breaking all records. On top of that, he's doing it alone. Who the hell is he? Meanwhile, Lin Luo was already approaching the 10th floor. The system immediately warned him that once he entered there, he would only be able to exit the missions after passing the level or due to death. The guy immediately remembered that in his previous life, the first person to walk 10 floors alone was Xiaojuju. Since Lin was able to pass this way, he just had to obtain at least 10th and 20th level achievements. When the young man opened the gate of the 10th floor, a 10th level dog-headed lord appeared before him. The monster immediately pounced on the boy. It struck with a crazy strike combined with a machete. This was not a good combination for Lin Luo. After dodging the attack, the guy summoned a Dark Emperor, who pounced on his opponent at the same moment. In a matter of seconds, the doppelganger reached the dog-headed lord. Approaching him, the henchman threw the enemy several meters away from him with one powerful blow to the chest. The enemy flew into the throne room behind him at a tremendous speed. Looking at it in astonishment, Lin Luo can't believe that such a strong monster lost with just one strike from the Dark Emperor. However, that was not the case. The dog-headed lord immediately rose to his feet and crossed his two swords. At the same moment, he snapped out of his seat and attempted to strike at the Dark Emperor. But as the enemy's blade slammed into the ground, the doppelganger made a sudden movement, going behind the enemy's back. After that, the Dark Emperor attacked the dog-headed lord from the back, smashing his fist into his face with tremendous force. The opponent did not survive such a blow and fell dead on the ground in front of Lin Luo's feet. The world news immediately reported that the Dark Emperor player had become the first player in the world to single-handedly pass the 10th floor of the Tower of Babel. He would be rewarded with a Wheel of Fortune lottery ticket for 10 spins. After seeing this, most people couldn't believe that the Dark Emperor had broken all records again. This guy had passed the 10th level too quickly. Meanwhile, in Country R, where an unidentified object had fallen a year ago, everyone already knew what had just happened. The world news seemed to have awakened the mechanism of the magic stone, and something appeared on it. The inscription that appeared said that when the first second-ranked player on a level 20 blue star appeared in the world, many places around the world would begin to experience tribulation-level disasters. What does that mean? Would monsters from dungeons and secret worlds appear in the real world? Turning to her colleagues, the girl standing in front of the stone explained that the catastrophe had already arrived and perhaps soon the world would be swallowed by chaos. Everyone should prepare for the worst. She then asked if anyone could find the Dark Emperor. At this time, Lin Luo is already standing in front of the Wheel of Fortune, hoping that with the abilities of the Lord of Prayers, he could win something valuable. When the wheel spinning was complete, the system congratulated the Dark Emperor player for winning 10 prizes. This time, the guy got 2 F-rank life extension potions, 2 more D-rank items, a full 3 C-rank items, 1 each of B and A rank items, and an S-rank space crystal. Looking at the prizes he received, the young man can't believe that it's really the S-class space crystal inventory. After all, it is with its help that one can return from a dungeon or the Tower of Babel to the real world. Lin Luo immediately took 2 crystals for himself to improve his own strength and defense level. He gave the remaining 2 magical life crystals to the Dark Emperor. The doppelganger immediately used these items, causing his strength, defense, and health to increase. Opening the inventory, Lin noticed that he still had 2 more Wheel of Fortune tickets and 275 shards of fortune left. The right thing to do would be to collect 10 tickets and then make a wish at the Lord of Prayers. You should also accumulate a few more shards of fortune so that you can go to the store and exchange them for something useful. You have to sell all your gear before you can go to the next level, because the sooner it's sold, the more expensive it will be. The currency in the game in real life is slightly different. The current exchange rate for 1 copper coin is 5 to 6 yuan. Right now, the equipment is very expensive. Here, for example, black iron level gear costs several hundred gold coins. To begin with, there are 6 yuan per copper coin. So, the guy puts up 2 high-level rare weapons, as well as top-level spells. Then he lists the cost at 2,300, 2,100, and 4,000 respectively. But as soon as Lin Luo put these items up for trade, his entire inventory was bought out. For everything together, he received 8,400 gold coins. In real money terms, that's 5 million yuan. It literally happened in a second. That's when the young man realized that he had underestimated the rich for nothing. It was stupid. I should have sold the items one at a time. Fine, cleaning the equipment is a breeze. Besides, the guy might have to stay here all night to get up to the 20th floor. Plus there's still going to be a transfer quest. When Lin gets out of the game, he'll be able to get another S-level ability, the Smiling Coffin, the Great Tomb, and the Baki Society. These are the three infamous clans that appeared after the Chaos Age in the previous life. By Hongli, one of the 8 leaders of the Baki Society. On a rainy night, he carried not an umbrella but a knife. Among the 10 guards of the Great Tomb, Blood Witch Jaiwan and Ice Fury, Liu Jiang made great contributions to the clan. The leaders of the Smiling Coffin are Zhu Yong, Hu Jinming, and Guotao. They are all masters who were able to awaken S-rank abilities. After Lin Luo is able to destroy them, he will have the opportunity to go to Sin City. Sin City is a place where people torture each other and hate each other. It's full of embittered people who can never atone for their sins even if they die 1,000 times. As for the people who killed Lin Luo and his brother, they are people who were hired by the fated monsters, who haven't reached S-level ability. When the guy is done with their leader, he will go and destroy everyone, even those behind him. The young man will avenge his past life. This man's name is Xing, and he is in charge of the Crouching Tiger Villa in Hangzhou. While typing something on his computer, the man noticed that China's anti-fraud methods were getting better and better. It is no longer as lucrative as it used to be to trick people into going to East Asia to earn money. But now that Xin had registered his company, he would really be able to achieve great fame. First you have to recruit people in China, keep them busy for a while, and then get them to join teams. With a sly smile, the man realized that he was indeed a genius. Another fat sheep has bitten. If we collect enough, the network will be shut down, and the boss will definitely praise me, Shin said as he saw the message on his phone. Meanwhile, Lin Luo had already entered the 11th floor of the Tower of Babel. There, he was met by many level 10 skeleton warriors. Since their swords are rusty, each blow casts a bleeding debuff on the enemy. On the first 10 floors of the Tower of Babel, you can only get shards of fate. After passing the higher levels, one could already obtain some equipment. Lin missed it incredibly. In his previous life, he had spent a lot of time here with his brother. Attack and leave no one behind, the young man uttered, glaring at the Dark Emperor. As in previous times, the doppelganger had no trouble dealing with the entire crowd of skeletons with a few blows. But while he was distracted by them, a 17th level skeleton general riding a dead horse had already approached Lin from behind. Does this fool really look down on the guy just because he's only at level 13? Thinking about it, the young man immediately took out a dagger from his inventory and ran behind his opponent's back and stabbed into him. It took 1 minute and 35 seconds to pass the 11th level of the Tower of Babel. The reward was 85 shards of fate. Lin had 3 years of experience that he had accumulated in his past life. So even in the underworld itself, there are no creatures that can threaten him. So he's going to make it to the 20th floor in one breath. And exactly 8 minutes later, the guy reached the 20th floor. There, a 20th level skeleton lord was waiting for him. This monster can summon an army of armed skeletons. In addition, its large sword can deal 400 points of physical damage by storing energy. "Awaken, my servants, leave hell and fight for me," shouted the lord, raising his sword warily above his head. After these words, armed skeletons emerged from the ground. Now there are more than 200 opponents here. The difficulty of this level far exceeds the previous 19 floors. At the same moment, the skeleton lord snapped out of his seat and roared towards Ling Luo riding his horse. As soon as the lord's minions started to approach the guy, the Dark Emperor ran out from behind his lord's back and shredded them into small pieces. Immediately afterward, he left his master behind and pounced on the leader of the army. The doppelganger prepared to strike with his fist, but the skeleton lord had already raised his sword to block his opponent's attack. Meanwhile, Lina Luo was already surrounded by an army of armed skeletons. Holding out his dagger in front of him, the guy realized that his abilities weren't enough to defeat such a huge number of enemies. There was a possibility that he might be seriously injured. Realizing that the situation he was in was worse than ever, the young man immediately called upon the Lord of Prayers. Lin then made a wish that in this battle, the Dark Emperor would strike with redoubled strength until the skeleton lord was completely defeated. "My lord, your wish is granted," uttered the Lord of Prayers, opening the Book of Wishes. Surprised at the doppelganger, Lin wondered, could he really make such a wish? In the same second, the Dark Emperor's aura transformed, and he looked many times more threatening. Dazedly looking at him, The skeleton lord can't understand what happened to his opponent, cutting down the skeletons attacking him. The guy ordered the Dark Emperor to go ahead and not worry about his master. After obeying Lin, the doppelganger immediately pounced on the skeleton lord. When he put his fist forward, his opponent was already preparing to repel the attack by lunging to the right. At the same moment, a loud bang sounded and a cloud of smoke appeared in the air. "Ha, I think he's blown to pieces. That's what happens to those who cross me," Skeleton Lord said contentedly. Turning around, Lin Luo couldn't believe that the Dark Emperor had lost so easily. In the same instant, the fog cleared, and the remains of the Dark Emperor were not there. He was gone. While the Skeleton Lord was trying to figure out what had happened, he felt a terrifying aura behind him. Once behind his opponent's back, the Dark Emperor delivered a powerful blow to the back of his head, knocking his foe to the ground. Lin Luo knew that his doppelganger couldn't give up so easily. The Emperor immediately sat on his opponent's back and began to deliver blow after blow, knocking out 580 health with each attack. In a matter of seconds, he landed several 100% hits, rapidly reducing the enemy's health reserves. To finish, the doppelganger used the instantaneous explosion technique, inflicting tremendous damage on the target. This really is the most proper way to make wishes. It's the fate of the wicked to be torn to pieces. There's no other way. Dark Emperor defeated the Skeleton Lord. For killing a high-level monster, an enhancer that added 900% to experience was activated. The 20th floor of the Tower of Babel was successfully passed. The time it took to pass was 3 minutes and 11 seconds. After that, Lina Luo's character had reached the 14th level. The world news immediately informed other people that the player Dark Emperor had been awarded the status of the first player in the world to single-handedly traverse the 20 floors of the Tower of Babel. As a reward, he received a lucky ticket for 10 spins in the Wheel of Fortune. Players who heard the news were sure he would go no further. He must have been beaten to a pulp by now. But contrary to their expectations, the mysterious Dark Emperor continued to conquer the Tower of Babel. From the 21st to the 29th floor, the player passes through a labyrinth, and Lin Luo uses the shortest route he can remember to speed up the dungeon. And all just to get an early meeting with the boss on the 30th floor. Congratulations to the player for reaching level 15. Congratulations, you have reached the 30th floor of the Tower of Babel. You have not yet reached enough level to complete such a challenging mission. Please come back next time. And let's go without your advice, Lin Luo uttered after seeing this alert from the system. In the boss room was the monster that the guy was expecting, a level 30 Minotaur King. Lin would finally be able to use his active skill looting. Seeing the uninvited guests on the threshold of his chambers, the King Minotaur threw his golden hammer to the ground with a clatter. Level 15. Foolish man, do you have any idea what awaits you? The boss inquired, looking at the guy. Nonchalantly approaching him, Lin Luo remarked that from the looks of it, the labyrinth that led to this room was a real trap. And it's truly amazing that such a low-level person was able to pass all the previous floors with ease. I am ready to fight you, Dark Emperor, into battle, shouted the young man, pointing his hand at his opponent. But the Minotaur was not standing still either. With a single swing, he raised his golden hammer upward, preparing to kill the enemy attacking him. But the Dark Emperor was fast enough to dodge this attack. In his past life, Lin Luo had experienced firsthand that it was not a good idea to quickly traverse the floors from the 21st to the 29th, as the monsters that players fought will be reborn and come to the king's call to support their boss. It's not the first generation of players to fall into this silly trap, but Lin is the exception to the rule. He has his own plan. The boy immediately summoned the Lord of Prayers to him. When the doppelganger asked the Lord if he had any errands for him, the young man asked him to continue helping him and the Dark Emperor to strike with redoubled force. The Lord of Prayers obeyed Lin and granted his wish. The Dark Emperor immediately began dealing colossal amounts of damage to the boss, rapidly reducing its health level. At that moment, the Minotaur King called for his warriors to rise up from the underworld itself, come here, and begin to defend their lord. Hearing this, Lin Luo realized that the boss was starting to attack. In that case, the guy decided not to stand still either and ordered the Dark Emperor to start as well. The doppelganger activated the Earthquake skill, taking away 1,200 health points from himself. After that, he activated another skill called Mad Dance, increasing the power by 30%. The Dark Emperor continued to activate skill after skill, increasing the power of the strike, but lowering all of his stats, including health and agility. Meanwhile, the Lin Luo standing to the side was raising his levels with every passing second. This was simply a delightful feeling. He had already reached the 18th level, but suddenly a mob of enraged monsters burst into the boss's resting place. It's them! Monsters from the underworld itself are rushing right here. They seem to have arrived just in time. My warriors, at my command, retreat, Lin Luo ordered, throwing his hand up in the air. But, in fact, the reason for such an order was not that the guy had given up. He just decided to test something. The young man should know if he had chosen the ability well. As soon as Lin raised his hand above his head, the monsters standing behind him dropped their sledgehammers and stopped mesmerized on the spot. It is the very power to influence the mind and will of other beings. All the minotaurs that ran into the boss's chambers immediately bowed their heads before the guy. Meanwhile, somewhere in the rookie dungeon's secret realm of mushrooms, a man with the same power orders his opponents to kneel before him. The Mushroom King obeyed and fell to his knees before his new lord. At that instant, satisfied clapping of hands was heard behind them. Yun Taiji, approaching this man, noticed that he had finally found an opponent worthy of his SS level skill. The man had heard a lot about Mr. Tiruo, and with his help, he would definitely be able to defeat the Dark Emperor. Turning around to look at him, Tiruo asked who he was. And why isn't this stranger afraid of his emperor's eye ability? Walking up to the guy in the golden robe, Yun Taiji introduced himself as the person who lives outside of time. The very person who could make Tiruo stronger. A man who lives outside of time. Why did you come to me? Ruo asked, puzzled, looking at the man's hand. In response, Taiji only took his hand. I came to you because I really need your help. Also, because you can bring any monster to its knees. The man explained while looking at Tiruo's face. At the same time, on the 30th floor of the Tower of Babel, the enchanted minotaurs are humbly sitting on their knees in front of Lin Luo. After looking at them, the guy ordered the Dark Emperor to come out and deal with them. The doppelganger immediately jumped out from behind him and rushed towards the defenseless opponents. With one square attack, he finished off all the monsters, scattering them in different directions. Because the impact was so powerful, a huge cloud of dirt and dust rose into the air. Coughing, even Lin Luo couldn't believe that the Dark Emperor had actually dealt with everyone with just one blow. In the end, for this entire battle, the guy reached 22nd character levels. The mysterious player, the Dark Emperor, has achieved the status of the first player in the world to reach the 30th floor of the Tower of Babel alone. He defeated the boss in just 16 minutes and 29 seconds. Now, coming out of the Tower of Babel after such a long journey, Lin Luo would be able to break through to a whole new level.
Pet the cat.